Taylor Guitars has introduced a more affordable all-Koa guitar to its American lineup in the 724ce. They've also said that not only does it look different, it sounds different. Today, we are going to compare that with its K24ce counterpart and see exactly how different they are. So stay tuned. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name is Chris McKee.
And I'm Cooper Greenberg.
We're here with Alamo Music Center in San Antonio, Texas. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and like our videos. If you'd like to support the channel, visit our spring store link below for customized swag, t-shirts, and other good things. And check out our podcast, the Fretboard Confessionals. We talk about guitars, sometimes controversial stuff. There you go. And this is an interesting comparison today. So the 724ce and 722ce are new to Taylor's lineup. They replace the 714 and 712 that have been there for a long time with rosewood back and sides and spruce most recently. And they bring an entirely different aesthetic of Koa guitars to Taylor's lineup, but also a different sound. So we've done a video at launch for the 724 and its smaller counterpart, the Grand Concert 722ce. Taylor's done a lot of talk about the bracing's different, which we covered on that video. We could talk a little bit more in this one. Between that and this, obviously the aesthetics are different, the finish is different, and all of this leads to a different feel and a different sound. And so we want to try to qualify and communicate that in this video so that you can make an educated decision of which one might be in your future. So
yeah.
So I've got the K24.
You got the OG, and I got the newbie.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting. I was thinking about this in between videos. 800 series flagship. 814 flagship grand auditorium guitar, 900 premium, even more so, and then K24. I think about the other series all have very strong identity. 314 entry into the American factory. Like no frills, but fantastic guitar. You talked about the affordability, but also quality of the 400, 414 CER. And then, 5 and 6 have their own special sort of vibe and sound.
Right.
I think that the 700 series is the one that maybe had the least of a defined identity, And with the amount that Taylor fans have come to love Koa and the amount that Koa has been brought to more players, even with GS Minis and all that, it seems like the best series to go for to make another Koa kind of version. And it makes me hope, like I mentioned in that last video, that there are more options within that. How cool would it be to have like a 716 or 718? I mean, there's possibilities are wild.
726.
726. Talk about 715, dude. Even stuff that we don't even know what's going on.
You know what that is?
Huh.
That would be the old jumbo designation. Yeah.
I'm down for that.
Bring the
honestly.
jumbo back.
I would love to see, we talked privately about this, I would love to see like a 717 with Koa and spruce. That would be incredible on the GP body style. But for now, there are plenty of K24s that we have right now, builders, AMC, and regular. Why'd you choose this one to compare to?
Well, because this is the one that is, I think, going to best reflect the changes that are going on. So if you don't know, in the Koa lineup, there's also a builder's edition that features a silent satin finish and all of the changes with the bevels and everything that have been in builder's editions. We offer an exclusive K24ce that we've designed with differences with upgraded Koa, a silent satin finish, no stain, and special inlay. And because of that thin finish, I felt that it too, like the Builder's Edition, was not going to communicate the dramatic differences that Taylor's going for here. This is the standard model K24ce, and it's funny to say standard model on a guitar that costs as much as a Koa series guitar costs. And this is not to take anything away from the Koa series. It has been and continues to be an incredibly beautiful high-end Koa guitar that Taylor offers. and there are many people who love these guitars. They tend to choose high grade Koa. Ours we spec'd up, you know, but it's high grade Koa. They do this Kona edge burst gloss finish to really bring out the figuring in the wood, and then just beautiful aesthetics. I like the tuners on this. We talked about that in the last video, but these are still the best. These are like the king tuners, these 510s. When I was doing the demo, and I tuned that guitar up and then I tuned this guitar up, I was like, yeah, I mean, those are just better tuners. They're just so great. And so this is a beautiful, beautiful guitar, and it really is high-end. It screams high-end. This is a new, also high-end guitar. Let's not, negate the fact that this is $34.99. It's a lot less expensive. You could almost buy two of these, almost, for what that costs, or two of those for what this costs. Yeah, but I mean, $34.99 is still an expensive guitar, but it's a more affordable, more value-oriented option for all Koa series in the American lineup from Taylor. And rather than, this is what I really love, rather than just do more Koa at a lower price point, they've really changed the whole guitar around to be unique and different than this. So outside of price, based upon aesthetics, feel, and tone, you may want that guitar over this guitar, or you may want this guitar over that guitar. And I love that that Andy Powers has decided to design this guitar with a different goal in mind. So we talked in our video on the introduction of these that this guitar came out, the new 724ce and 722ce, out of availability of wood. They're calling it select grade, and they have this access based upon a partnership with Pacific Pacific Rim Tonewoods in Hawaii. And so basically it's stuff that just wouldn't have been available to market before. Is great for making guitars, has unique coloring options, and they can do something cool and different with it. So I think the vibe of the wood led to the design choices for both the look and the sound.
Yep.
So, chatoyancy.
That's nice. So, couple aesthetic differences between the two. This the burst, the gloss.
Yeah.
Pick guard over here.
Yeah, no pick guard over here. I wouldn't put one over here. Nope. I think it'd look off. This has a beautiful Paua rosette, abalone rosette, which this one does not, and I really like. By the way, I really love abalone. It's personal preference with a satin finish. There's something that just, it's like, you know what I mean?
And it's really cool on this looking closer.
It's like spoked.
Yeah, that's very, very cool.
Yeah, they didn't mention that in the paperwork about the design of this, but it is spoked, which is cool.
And what is that rosewood?
It's there's rosewood, maple, and ebony that are used to frame the top and the rosette.
Yeah, and they're kind of in different orders too. Just small detail, but it's very cool.
Yeah, it's like over here where you've got the pale maple, not the flame maple, but pale maple, so it's still wood binding, offset with these thin strut. I mean, can we just for a minute, outside of everything else, take a minute to acknowledge Taylor's insane attention to detail and build quality?
Yeah.
We see a lot of guitars, a lot of guitars from a lot of builders. And to be able to pull something out of the case and like look super closely and not be able to find anything to nitpick.
Yeah, I think we get kind of desensitized too because it's so consistent. Like every single K24 that we open up is perfect, but it's really nice to look a little closer, take a second to look at the details. You mentioned the fountain inlay on this in the initial video. I like it because it's like the guitar. It's luxurious but kind of understated.
Understated, yep.
Is that Nouveau?
Yeah, this is the Nouveau Vine, I believe, which is a beautiful, kind of understated in its own right. They could have gone with abalone, but chose maple instead. And so it has kind of an organic, natural vibe to it. Speaking very, to go along with the Hawaiian wood and overall aesthetic of the guitar. And I love how the fretboard and the headstock are all framed, That just really makes it pop. I love that So really beautiful, beautiful aesthetics. And then what they've really been known for a long, long time is just beautiful tone. So Koa, if you're not familiar with it, or you haven't watched any of our videos covering it, typically when it's an all-Koa guitar, you have some really nice low mids. The bass tends to open up over time, and so it gets bassier the more you play the guitar. Typically in about the first 5 years it settles in, gets bassier. You have a nice mid-range, and you have some of the treble that you might expect to get kind of out of a maple guitar. And so it's a really nice broad EQ tone wood, just when you're typically dealing with Koa. When you use Koa as a top, much like mahogany, it's a hardwood, so it helps to compress the sound. It evens out all of your dynamics and makes for a really nice round, warm sound, and it just looks beautiful as well, which I think is honestly why most people get it, but
which is totally fine.
It's totally fine, but it has a really nice tone to it. The changes that Taylor's made with that one, giving it a super thin 2 mil satin finish, open pore satin finish, and the bracing is different. So they're both V-class bracing, but the thing that doesn't get advertised very much is that every guitar that has V-class bracing has little tweaks to it, little nuanced things based upon body and tone wood combination. What we know about that one is Andy shared in a video to dealers that the back bracing is thinner, and you can look in these two guitars and it's very subtle, but particularly on the ends, you can see the changes to the back bracing. It's hard to see the changes in the top bracing, and for most people you probably wouldn't notice. You know, someone like Andy Powers, any really great guitar builder appreciates the value of small changes and how it can pay off. Most of us would just go, okay, yeah, it's V-class, you know, and not really understand the benefits of it. But I think between the bracing and the wood choices and the finish, there's a lot of tonal variation here.
Yeah.
So, and it's very, what Taylor said is that this is very player reflective, the new 724. So I'm going to play both of these very similar things, and you can hear the differences for yourself, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. Check it out. Okay, so there you have it. Before I get into it, Cooper, you've spent some time playing these two back to back. I'd like to hear your thoughts on how you think they compare tonally.
Well, I can't get enough of kind of the vibration and resonance that you feel when you're playing this guitar. I think it feels incredible. I think I got a few thoughts. I would assume that the K24 as is would be a stage performance focal point guitar. You know, it's a piece of luxury and it sounds incredible, but it's also, you know, I picture a front man or front woman playing that guitar. This I see as that, but also a great recording guitar. There's something about the tone, it's so breathy and just right there, very, you know, forward, right in your face. It's hard to use the words to describe.
Words to describe sound are awesome.
I was talking to a sound guy not too long ago here in town, and he was talking about the difference between Vox and Fender amps. He talked about Vox always takes a little time for him to find the place in the mix because, yes, they're chimey and they're bright, but there's not a ton of presence and he has to dial it in. Fender tube amps, he said, they're present, they're right there. He doesn't have to do anything except throw a mic on it. I kind of feel that way about these. This has a very sweet, beautiful, warm, and chimey tone. Might take some tweaking to find your place in a mix with a band. I think this is going to be that right there. Lots of good headroom, but like very present, quick attack. And I think that has to do with both the finish and the bracing. And I just, something about what I like right now in acoustic guitars, I think this caters to a little better. We've been going crazy about nice satin finished mahogany, all mahogany acoustic guitars. I think this responds very similar to something like that, and I think that's what Taylor's really excelling at right now with the 8022. You know, it's just a really good feel, and I like that a lot. I also think about Koa like a steak, all right? You know, you got really nice Koa. Both of these are like a prime fillet, you know? It's lean, it's a lean, you know, meat. This is a prime fillet, reverse seared, nice crust on it, some flaky salt. This is also a prime fillet, cooked exactly the same, but with like a big old mess of lump crab on top. It's gonna change the flavor, but it's not gonna do much to, you know, change the flavor of the steak. It just adds on extra, you know, it's a little something extra. It's gonna cost a little bit more, and you know, you get a whole different kind of something. They're both prime fillets. This one just has the add-on of the lump crab.
We are now going to introduce the steak meter.
It's a steak
to this
meter.
channel. Every guitar we will have to compare. Is it filet mignon? Is it a nice porterhouse or ribeye?
We've been having a lot of chuck roast recently.
Is it chopped steak?
We've been doing a lot of chuck, you know. It's nice to have some prime. Maybe even Wagyu over here.
Is that Acoustasonic kind of like a chicken fried steak there?
You hit the nail on the head on that one. That's podcast material.
There you go.
Yeah, that's my thoughts. These are steaks. These are two different amps. I'd record with this one. I'd perform with either one of them.
So your comparison, and I love the steak one, brought up another great, I think, comparison, and that is people's singing voice. So you have people that sing very breathy, very kind of, their voice is out here. You know those guys where they sing. I've been accused of this, like from sound engineers. When I sing, and if I go high and you have to get louder, I'm coming back here. You know, because I can really push it. Yeah, push it out. There's other people where they don't move a lot. Chris Stapleton's actually like this. You know, with all of his vocal gymnastics, he's like right here because he sings kind of it's a nasal back of the throat. You know, and instead of pushing more air out when he hits high notes, it actually kind of like comes inward, which is...
It's like that compression kind of
thing. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. So just the way people sing, that's guitars, acoustic guitars move air in a similar fashion. And so I agree, all of that to say, I agree with your overall aesthetic. That is a more resonant guitar. It's designed to be that way. Its finish is really allowing it to breathe. It's really allowing it to move freely. And so there's a lot of kind of just presence that's in that guitar. This has a lot of the same tonal properties that you'd get from Koa, but its response is more focused and not as open, which is kind of like the Vox amp, right?
Yeah.
I think my Les Paul's like this. A custom shop 59 versus a traditional back in the day. It's like the traditional sounds like a Les Paul right here, and a 59 sounds like a Les Paul over here.
Yeah.
And so that's really what you're getting with these two guitars. That one is noticeably louder, more resonant, and there's just the tonal response is different. They talk about being player reflective, and it's interesting because my custom Taylor is geared along the same way. Is as you move I think it's indicative of responsive guitars. As you move around closer to the bridge, further from the bridge, and so forth, the guitar just kind of accentuates those changes. And so, I mean, you can't really go wrong with both. I think, some people still want gloss finish. Gloss says expensive guitar to them. I have moved more and more away from that.
Oh, excuse me. You're good. You're getting choked up over how great these are.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if Taylor was worse with their marketing and I was in charge, they would just call this one the working man's K24, which I think it is. But either way, like we said in that first video introducing these, really cool to have a different option that's one open pour, very cool, like higher end open pour guitar. It's kind of unique in the climate right now. And I love Silent Satin as much as the next K24 Alamo Music exclusive owner. But it's nice to have some open pour. This just feels like an absolutely stripped down, right in your face, no frills, Koa kind of.
You know what else it reminds me of?
Exhibit.
You ever notice when you look at, like, you talked about stage guitar, right? If you look at guys that are like playing electric guitars on stage in like rock bands or country bands or whatever, they're all gloss finishes and stuff, and then you watch like jazz guys and they'll play a brand you've never heard of. And it's always like exotic woods and satin finish. Yeah. It's interesting. Anyways, that's a random thought. But yeah, I think of this as like orchestral type stuff. So very cool. Curious what you guys think of it. One, through YouTube, could you hear the differences between the guitars? Would you agree with our stake assessment? Or do you have your own stake ideas about how these qualify? And overall, could you hear the differences, and which one did you like better? Feel, I think, is also very subjective, and I'm liking the satin feel over. It's to this point, I've looked at guitars I own and gone, what would it take to make that satin? So
call JR, dude.
Yeah, interesting. Anyways, let us know your thoughts. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn on notifications, and like our videos, and we'll see you next time.